An entitled Karen confronts me outside my new house, guilt-tripping me into selling my house to her son who wanted it instead. And I'm honestly blown away by this level of entitlement. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, back in March, my partner and I bought a house. This was a big deal for us, and we're so glad we managed to pull this off, especially right before the pandemic got really bad. It's a livable fixer-upper, and the lady that lived here before bought it in 1967 and was the only owner before us, and she made no updates in that time. It keeps us busy, and that's worked out really well being home so often. But this is right about when the entitled Karen of this story steps in and basically ruins my day. In the month of May, my big project was pulling up some nasty bushes that had taken over a huge chunk of the front side yard. It was hot, and I was very sweaty. I'm digging out roots and throwing branches away, and as I'm right up front and making a pretty drastic change to the yard, people obviously did notice. Most neighbors stop by and say a quick hello from the car and just drive away, but not this entitled Karen. The entitled Karen pulls up in a shiny black Suburban from the opposite side of the road. She parks the wrong way and rolls down her window. I would say she's in her 50s or 60s. I stand up and pause my music. The entitled Karen then shouts out, "Hey, did you buy this house?" I respond to her by saying, "Yep, we actually just moved in last month." She then inquires if I knew the family before moving in, and I say to her, "Oh, that sold it to us?" "No, not really. We just got lucky that they chose us, I guess." Now, I was just trying to be nice, but also kind of off-put that she's asked none of the typical neighbor questions. I mean, we made a good offer and we got the house. The entitled Karen then says, "Yeah, my son really wanted this house. He grew up in this neighborhood, you know." I explained to her that, houses move really fast nowadays. But the Karen interrupts me and says, "He spent his whole life in this area, and he really deserved to stay in this neighborhood, you know." And after I said that that was too bad, I was starting to get a little bit weirded out. Then this entitled Karen drops the weirdest question she's asked so far. She says to me, "So how much did you offer?" Now, for me, not wanting to give her details, I basically just said it was over the asking price and that we are very proactive. But the entitled Karen said that her son really wanted that house. Now, at this point, I'm feeling very awkward about this whole situation, and I'm just looking to shoo this lady along. I say to her, "Yeah, I'm sure most houses will go up for sale around here." This entitled Karen then says, "Well, that doesn't help him now, does it? He had his heart set on that house." At this point, I just shrugged my shoulders and decided to resume my root cutting to try and give her the message that I don't want to talk. "You're probably just flipping it. He would have loved it." But I chimed back in and said, "No, we're not. We're staying here long term." But this entitled Karen didn't believe me. She just said, "Yeah, right." At this point, she doesn't leave. I'm wondering if I should just go inside or something. She keeps looking at me, expecting me to say something, but I just keep cutting at the roots. The entitled Karen then says, "Is it just you, or did your family help you get it?" I responded by getting pretty short in my tone by saying that my partner and I bought it together. The entitled Karen looks over my yard and says, "My grandkids would have loved the yard. A loved yard makes a house a home, you know." At this point, I wasn't even looking up. I said to her, "Well, my dogs will love it too, especially once I'm done." The entitled Karen sounded shocked. She said, "Seriously?" But I just scoffed. I pulled my root out, I threw it on the pile, and I could feel her eyes watching me. Ready for all of this to be done, I looked at her and I said, "Well, have a good day." Then with a last and final glare, she let out an angry scoff and she sped off, leaving a quite annoyed and bewildered me in all my dirty glory, mulling over what in the world had just happened. Did this lady really try to guilt trip me because we bought a house her son wanted? Well, apparently she absolutely did. It's definitely the most unwelcoming interaction I've ever had since we've moved in, but thankfully we have not seen her ever since. That entitled Karen is literally the definition of what passive-aggressive looks like. Instead of making some kind of point about what she's talking about, she decided to dance all around the issue just to try and throw clues down to make you make the assumption that she's trying to say something. And this is all just some stupid tactic just so she can be like, "I can't believe you would think that." Or for her to try and pounce on you and make it seem like it was your idea to begin with. And people who act like that are unbelievably toxic. I can't stand people like that. If you have something to say to me, just say it to my face. That's my mentality. I would much rather have it out in the open than have somebody dance around the issue and pretend like that's not actually what you're trying to talk about. And that's exactly what this stupid entitled Karen was trying to do. She was absolutely trying to guilt trip these people into selling off this house to her stupid son, who, by the way, probably should have just put up a better offer. Like, it's not your fault you got the house. If he wanted it, he should have ponied up more money like you did. The original poster even goes on to explain that they even paid over value for the house just to get it. And it's not like this would be an easy fixer-upper either. This is a house from 1967 that hasn't upgraded anything since the original owner bought it back then. So honestly, good riddance to this entitled Karen. She was so far out of line asking those questions, and seriously, she has another thing coming if she thinks she can guilt trip somebody into selling their house. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Am I the jerk for not changing my wedding to be in the United States, as none of my extended family are willing to travel to Canada just to see me married? Here's what happened. So I am getting married at the end of next month, and the wedding is going to be in Canada. My husband-to-be is Canadian, and that's where we will be living beginning in the fall. I am American, and so is most of my family. My wedding will be about 5 hours away from where me and my family currently live in the States. We already have everything planned and paid for, including the venue for the ceremony and reception. Today, I got several text messages and calls from my dad, my aunt, my uncle, and cousins asking me to change the location of my wedding to be within the United States. I am bewildered at this request, even though I already know my answer is going to be no. Apparently, my 20-year-old cousin got a DUI charge in Canada last year and isn't allowed back into the country because she'll be in some serious legal trouble. Now, I'm not close with this side of my family, nor did I know about this until today. So I reply to my aunt telling her that the venue is already paid for and that I'm not changing my plans. I then get several phone calls and paragraph text messages from my aunt and cousins, basically calling me selfish and that I don't care about my family. I then get a call from my dad asking if we can postpone our wedding and just have it at a city hall near where my parents are living. I tell them no, and mind you, my fiance and I paid in full for our wedding with no help from any of our families. But I get the same response calling me selfish and that no one wants to come to our wedding anyways. So this begs the question, am I the jerk for not changing my wedding destination, all to try and appeal to my cousin who got a DUI, as well as my family who doesn't want to travel to Canada? No, you are not the jerk. You are not selfish for saying, hey, this is where I'm getting married and we've already paid for everything. For them to be like, oh no, but your cousin who's clearly irresponsible got a DUI and now they can't go to Canada. You need to accommodate them. Like, what are we talking about? No, that's not gonna happen. It really does sound like your extended family is full of idiots. And it's probably a good thing that you're starting a new life away from these people. You've already paid for your wedding in full between you and your husband. No one helped you pull this together. They have no say in what you can and cannot do. And if anything, they're just projecting their own selfish attitude onto you, all because this cousin can't go to the wedding. And you know what? They're just using that as an excuse to try and push it so it's more convenient so they can go to your wedding. I mean, they said it themselves. They don't actually care about going to your wedding, and they're probably not going to show up anyways. So I don't blame you for saying, no, we're not going to reschedule everything, because this costs probably a lot of money just to reserve and plan out. And your idiotic extended family absolutely should not and will not have a say in where and when you get married. I overheard 3 of my roommates talking very poorly about me, and at this point, I'm so devastated, I seriously don't know what to do. So I live with 4 people, 2 other males and 2 women. Earlier today, I came downstairs to grab my laundry, and I heard both girls and one of the guys complaining about me. From what I can tell by what they were saying, this wasn't the first time they'd gotten together to gossip like this. It ranged from complaining about little things they don't like about me to things I've done recently, all the way up to making jokes and laughing at me for the way I am. I tend to be on the forgetful side, and I unfortunately don't always pick up on social cues. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, but sometimes I feel like it might be Asperger's or something like it. I've also suffered from depression and anxiety over the last few years. Apparently, there are things about me that have bothered them all year. For example, I used to have a bad habit of leaving kitchen cabinets open. Now, I was never told explicitly that this bothered anybody, but I had been asked a couple of times if I had meant to leave that open or something to that effect. And after that, I'd probably just close it. I can see how this might seem like a reoccurring issue on my behalf, but I don't do it on purpose. I just get distracted while cooking or absent-minded, but over time with a few reminders, I was able to fix the cabinet issue altogether. There were other unsavory remarks about recent incidents, like about how the other day, I accidentally left a candle unattended downstairs, which incidentally, they've also done this several times. Or how I opened the windows to let out a bad smell that they caused, and I accidentally fell asleep upstairs. It started raining while I was asleep, and some water got inside, which they had to clean up. I apologized both times, and I said that it was honestly just an accident, but it didn't seem to help help. Admittedly, there has been a handful of things that happened recently, but they've all been accidents. Usually, I'm unaware that's even an issue until somebody brings it up. I never deny or get defensive, but I always apologize and I try to explain. From what they said, they don't feel like I'm sincere whenever I try to explain, even though I am. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have felt like the odd one out. They don't really talk to me or include me in things that they do together. The other day, for example, one of the girls cooked dinner for herself and the others, and they ate together while watching TV. I wasn't offered any or asked to join them. In fact, as I'm typing this right now, they're currently out drinking, and once again, I wasn't invited. I convinced myself I was projecting until I heard them talking today. Until today, I believe these people were my closest friends. My birthday was this past month, and they made me a cake and threw me a really nice surprise party, which I've never had before. We also went to dinner, which was actually the first time I've had friends to go to dinner with for my birthday. I really thought they were my friends, but I can't seem to reconcile that with the sheer level of contempt I heard in their voices. And believe me, I really tried to convince myself that they were just blowing off steam or they were just frustrated, but it's honestly very unlikely with what they were saying. I can't remember verbatim, but it was honestly the kind of stuff that you would say about an insufferable coworker that you hate. The kind of person you know for a fact is saying the exact same things about you behind your back. It's not even that I can't take criticism well. I mean, I am usually the first to admit my flaws, and it's not just what was said, but also how it was said, dripping with disdain and contempt, like I'm the butt of a joke. I would never dream of talking about any of them like that to anyone, much less amongst members of my own household. It feels like they think I do these things on purpose, or that I just don't care, or that I'm just plain stupid for not recognizing how what I do is received by other people. They quite literally called me a bad roommate, and maybe I am, but I really do try my best. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck here for classes until the end of June. I don't know if I should talk to them about it, or if it's even worth it. I'm devastated to find out that people I thought were close to me would secretly feel this way about me. What do I do in this situation? As far as I know, they don't know what I heard, but it still hurts and I'm at a loss of what to do. I think the first thing you need to realize is that for starters, you now know exactly what these people are like. They are not your friends, they don't care about you, and they clearly think differently about you than what they're showing. Like seriously, the way they're acting is so inappropriate. These people are not your friends, they don't care in the slightest, and they've clearly singled you out to be the bad guy in this situation, even though you have not done anything. And you know what? If they were better friends, they would at least have the common courtesy to speak up and say, hey, this thing you're doing around the house, it really bothers me. Can you please fix it in the future? And that literally would have solved all the problems around the house. But instead, they decided to be passive aggressive about it, and honestly, that just doesn't help anybody. But thankfully, you at least know that these are not people you ever want to live with again. They're not your friends, they don't care about you, and this should hopefully be enough of a sign to spur you on and help you find another place to live. And that's totally fine, like you have every right to live where you're comfortable. So if I was in your shoes, I would just tough it out. I would live quietly and just keep to myself, and I would just wait until June comes around the corner, and then I would just privately leave. Because if I'm gonna have roommates, I really would want them to be people who actually care about me, or at the very least, people who are going to be amicable and at least friendly towards me in the face of us living together. Because the people that you're currently living with are absolutely not your friends, and they are also just completely awful roommates. Am I the jerk for telling my neighbor to stop collecting our mail? My family and I are renovating our house, so we've had to move out for a year before moving back. We asked the builders to leave our letterbox, as we don't want to do mail redirection, and we go past the house every 1 to 2 days anyways. About a week after we moved out, the house was fenced off, and the building started to commence. We came by nearly every day, and still there was no mail. After a week of no mail, we contacted the post office, and they said that that's really weird, and that they would check with the postman. The postman then said that our neighbor has told him that nobody lives there, but that they know where we moved to, so he was made to start delivering our mail to her house. After we found out, we went to our neighbor's house, and we told her to please stop that. It's easy for us to collect our mail, and we told the postman to keep dropping it off in our letterbox, and we just explained the situation in general. Around this time, we had some mail turn up at our new address that our neighbor had written our address on and given it back to the postman the next day to redeliver. I was completely baffled. The few times she managed to do this took 3 weeks for it to redirect, even though we only moved 20 minutes away. Finally, I stopped by the house and I straight up told her to stop it. And when I said that, she got offended. She said she was doing it out of the kindness of her heart and and making sure nobody stole our mail. I said the only one stealing it was her. Thankfully, she stopped doing it because now she is just straight up angry with us. But now I kind of feel bad about this, so I really need to know, am I the jerk for telling my neighbor to stop collecting our mail? No, you're not the jerk. This lady was clearly out of line. She was taking your mail and redirecting it to your house instead of just leaving it alone like any other normal person would do. And what in the world was this postman thinking? Why are they letting someone else get another person's mail without confirming with that family in the first place? Like, does this guy want to lose his job? That's so inappropriate. And I think depending on where you're living, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Like, for example, I can't just go up to the postman whenever I go outside and be like, oh, my neighbor, yeah, they no longer live there. Give me all of their mail. Like, no, that's not okay. You can't do that. So personally, good for you for putting your foot down and telling this lady to buzz off. You don't need her collecting your mail, and you hit the nail on the head. The only person that's stealing your mail is your neighbor. I would also definitely file a complaint with the post office. There is clearly a rogue postman who's just giving out mail to whoever asked for it. And that, in my opinion, is incredibly weird, and that's not going to help anybody in this situation. I just found out that my boyfriend of 4 years cheated on me 3 years ago, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I have strict parents. I'm a 22-year-old female, and 3 years ago when I was 19, I wasn't even allowed to drive out of our city because I was too far from them. This is my problem that I've been dealing with and working on with my family. This impacted our relationship because my family never knew I had a boyfriend. My boyfriend said he wanted me to tell them because our relationship didn't feel real. I couldn't travel, I couldn't have a sleepover, or even hang out past 10 o'clock. So anyways, back in September of 2020, he went to Arizona with his friends, and I am a super lenient girlfriend, so I had no problem with that. Long story short, I saw he added 3 girls on Snapchat. He told me he was under the influence, and one of them was a dealer, and I don't know how I believed him, to be honest. Anyways, we fight about that while he is still on this trip, and when he gets back, he breaks up with me. He says my parents are the issue. He feels insecure because he feels I'm gonna leave him for my family, and this just doesn't feel like a real relationship or whatever he was trying to say. In my opinion, he was valid, and he had the right to feel that way. Early 2020, and fast forward, and guess what? He's crying in my car, saying that he messed up and that he wants me back. I tell him that he broke up with me so suddenly that it's hard for me to fully commit. So we're in this phase of talking every day and going on dates, but not officially being back. He says he wants to go back to Arizona with his family and friends for Halloween. I say I don't like the idea because the last time he went, he added 3 girls on Snapchat and then broke up with me out of nowhere. But I tell him that we aren't official, so I guess go ahead. But that was more of a test, to be completely honest. He knows I'm uncomfortable with it, and I wanted to see if he would respect me. But you know what? He went. Halloween is when he cheated on me with one of the Snapchat girls, but didn't tell me. And at present day, my parents know and do not approve. But he says that I proved that I chose him. When I told my mother, she had a heart attack. I mean, in the hospital for 4 days, a real-life heart attack. But I moved on, and we are happy together. And he is controlling of me, which I hate, but I live with him because I love him. A couple of nights ago, he accidentally told me he was flirting in Arizona. I had a bad feeling, and I knew something more happened. So I ignored him for a couple of hours and told him I already know the truth, and I'm waiting for him to admit it. I made him swear on my life, and finally, he admitted that he cheated on me 3 years ago. I don't know what to do or think now. I feel like our entire relationship was a lie. He stated that he felt like I was going to leave him anyways, and he was insecure that my body count was 2 and he was at 1. What am I supposed to do with this idiotic reasoning? Also, he said that he didn't think our relationship was serious and we weren't together officially. I'm in so much shock that I haven't even cried yet because it just hasn't processed. I don't know if I should break up or if we should even try again. I am completely emotionally numb. Besides the obvious apologizing and whatever he said, a couple of weeks ago, he told me he wants to propose in 2 years. He sees our relationship as serious now and says he can't picture ever being without me. I mean, it's been 3 years since it happened, so yeah, our relationship has changed so much, but it just feels fake to me now. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. It really sounds like both of you are not emotionally mature enough to be in a relationship. For starters, he absolutely cheated on you, and he did it at a time where you didn't expect it and you thought you could trust him. So the fact that you're still in a relationship with him, even after all your suspicions are confirmed to be true, is really weird in my opinion. Like, you really deserve a lot more out of a relationship than being with some guy who has clearly cheated on you and still strung you along as if he really wanted to be with you. you. And I think overall, the attitude between the both of you is really, really weird. I mean, your boyfriend at one point was worried about body count, if you know what I mean. And meanwhile, you're going about giving him the cold shoulder and testing him in some kind of way, instead of being honest and open with what your needs are. So I honestly wish you the best of luck with this relationship, because based on what you've described, there's no reason why he wouldn't try and turn around and cheat on you again. And honestly, with all things considered, I think you deserve so much more out of a relationship. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.